Hi, my name is Tammy Leslie, and I am a math learning facilitator with ERLC. I am very happy to be presenting today on behalf of the School Council Conference. We will be taking a look at the new K-3 math curriculum. But before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge that we here in Alberta are on the traditional territories of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have lived and gathered on these lands for centuries. We are grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and create on this land. So before we get started, I thought I would just share a little bit about myself. I have been in education for over 30 years. Most of that time was spent in an elementary classroom. I have taught all grades except for kindergarten. I have been an acting administrator. I have been a math consultant for the last 9 years, working with teachers on enhancing best teaching practices and supporting them in the classroom. I am a mom of two amazing boys. They both play hockey. So as you can see on the screen, most of my weekends are spent in a car traveling all over Alberta in cold arenas. And actually my oldest now is playing hockey in Ohio. And so as often as we can, we would love to go see him. So my focus for today, I have lots of things that I would love to share with you. One, we're going to start off by talking about the importance of numeracy and mathematics. We will take a look at the new curriculum and provide you with an overview. I will look at the structure and how the new curriculum is laid out. We will delve more specifically into the mathematics content, taking a look at what's new. We will spend a little bit of time talking about what you will expect in your child's classroom next year in kindergarten through grade 3. And then I will take some time just to talk about how you can support your child at home. So what are some activities, some games that you can do to foster the love of mathematics? So the importance of mathematics and numeracy. Well, you will know that mathematics is a universal language, and it is a very powerful tool used to solve real life problems. In fact, if I asked you to stop right now and ponder all the ways that you use or apply numeracy in your real life, I'm sure we could come up with a huge list. We know that mathematics is intertwined into every element of our lives, both kind of in direct and indirect ways. When I think about managing and budgeting my finances, we're constantly using the skills of addition and subtraction, multiplication and division to budget. We know that mathematics really inspires curiosity about our world and our universe. And we know that students, when they have experiences with mathematics, they really develop an appreciation for seeing patterns, recognizing patterns, seeing relationships between different facets of our world. And when we look into the future, we really take a look at how mathematics is such an integral part of everyday world. And we know that math is used in practically every career in some way. In fact, I used to challenge my students when they were in the classroom to come up with and name a career. And they would ask me, so how would we use math if we were a basketball player? How would we use math if we became a chef? So students love to challenge me with different careers, and together we would talk about how actually math is used in practically every career. I don't think they have stumped me yet where math wasn't used. So we know that when students have strong mathematical skills, it really fosters numeracy and to be numerist. And Alberta Education defines numeracy as the ability, confidence, and willingness to engage with quantitative or spatial information to make informed decisions in all aspects of our daily lives. And we know that quantitative information is that information that can be measured. and expressed as an amount. So it really, when we talk about quantitative, we talk about quantity, we talk about number, we talk about estimation, we talk about fractions, and we talk about decimals. And then when you think about that ability and confidence to apply to spatial information, spatial is really that physical location of objects or people in space. It's really that relationship between objects or between people. We talk about spatial information when we use geometry, and we talk about measurement, how far something is, how close something is it over, is it under. So we want all of our students to become numerate individuals. So being able to take those mathematical skills and apply them to make informed decisions in everything that they do. We know that we want numeracy to certainly go, beyond the classroom, not just, utilizing these skills in isolation. But we know that the skills learned in mathematics will really empower our students as they move through their education and certainly into adulthood. We know that many of these skills are used daily, and so much research coming out is it being numerate or having strong mathematical skills is really foundational to successful living. To be contributing members, we have to be numerate individuals. So what I want to do now is to walk you through and spend a little bit of time showing you the math curriculum, which, embeds all of the numeracy. And numeracy, we know, is not just found in mathematics, but it certainly lives in the other subject areas as well, in our social, in our science, in our phys ed and language arts programs. So just to let you know, or just to kind of highlight again, we know that in September, all schools will be implementing the language arts and literature, the mathematics, and the phys ed and wellness curriculum. Schools will be able to pilot science, French immersion, and the French first language will begin. We know that the following year, the final curriculum will be coming out for science and the fine arts and social studies. And then in September, all subject areas will be, in September 2023, all subject areas will be fully implemented in the elementary schools. There is a site, New Learn Alberta, that is chock full of information, not only for teachers, but for you as parents as well. It really is interactive. There is a lot of information on there that I do really encourage you to have a look at and spend some time exploring. It really is a wealth of information, and I visit it almost daily and notice that there's updates continually being provided. So when you go into New Learn Alberta, you will be taken to a homepage, and this is what it will look like. And so you, as a parent, as well as teachers, will have access to the subject areas. You will be able to see the curriculum. You will be able to explore some of the resources that Alberta Education has put forth to be used with supporting the new curriculum. If you go to the Curriculum and Information Hub, that is where you will find materials for parents. So I do really encourage you to go there, as well as the Student Learning Hub has support for students, or how you as a parent can support your child at home. So I do really encourage you to take a look at these two areas in particular. I also wanted to share with you that there is an awesome video, a great video designed actually for parents and stakeholders outside of education. It's about, I think, 18 minutes long, and it really walks you through the implementation, the process of the new curriculum. So it is a great watch if you have 20 minutes of time to do so. When you go to the Alberta curriculum, like I said, you can pinpoint the curriculum that you want to look at. For today, my session is focusing in on the mathematics. So again, when you go to the mathematics landing page, you will have access to all the grade levels. And so it is really nice for you to be able to take a look at not only the grade that perhaps your child is in, but what is preceding it, what is coming after it. In addition to the math curriculum, there are other support documents in the new Learn Alberta site, one of them being the competencies progressions, and these actually span all the way from kindergarten to grade 12. These aren't grade specific, but more of an age range. And competencies is really that combination of knowledge and skills and those behaviors that we want students to develop and apply to be successful contributing members of society. So they really are those skills that will students develop and that teachers will foster in their classrooms to prepare students as they not only go through the schooling system, but as well into adulthood. So we take a look at things like critical thinking, problem solving, research and managing of information. And as you can see at each range of levels, students' ages, you will see what students will focus on at that particular division. So in addition to those that I mentioned, there is also creativity and innovation, the importance of communication, collaboration, citizenship, and personal growth and well-being. So these will be embedded not only in mathematics, but through all of the curriculum and content subject areas. In addition to the competencies, there are literacy progressions. Again, these will be embedded into all of the curricular areas. And again, these are not grade level specific, but more on a developmental age range. And so again, these are the knowledge and the behaviors that students will demonstrate as they progress through the curriculum. So the areas that students will have a look at is developing an awareness of literacy skills, looking at the rules of language, acquiring information, constructing meaning, and communicating meaning. So as well as the literacy progressions, there are also math progressions. So these, pardon me, not math progressions, numeracy progressions. So again, laid out in a very similar format. It takes a look at the awareness. So again, developing that awareness of those numeracy skills as they engage in different activities and learning experiences in the classroom. It will take a look at quantitative information, spatial information, interpreting and representing and communicating, and looking at specific strategies, methods, and tools that students will use to become numerate individuals. And again, these will be embedded throughout all of the subject areas, not just mathematics. So now we're going to kind of filter in and take a look more specifically at mathematics. But before I do that, I just wanted to let you know that what's really nice about this new curriculum, and as a teacher delving into the new curriculum, is that there are 3 common features across all subject areas. So when I think of the current curriculum, we're utilizing in our classrooms, they were all developed at different times. So each curriculum looks different in the layout and the organizational structure, which really is really nice about this new curriculum is that the architecture and design is consistent for all grade levels and across all of the subject areas. As well, they all have learning outcomes, and the learning outcomes are those statements that will be assessed. Those are the ones that you will probably be seeing in your child's reporting, in their summative reporting. And they have tried really hard to use clear and concise language throughout, again, all of the subject areas and all of the grade levels. So what's really nice for teachers is that, they're not trying to interpret and learn how to read each of the curriculum separately. Once, they start delving into one of them, like I said, there is consistency across all of them. So just taking a closer look at the architecture and design of the new curriculum, and I kind of see a swirly, I think of a swirly ribbon almost embedding all the way through, is these 5 show up in every subject area. So the curriculum starts with an organizing idea. These span across multiple grade levels. Then it goes into a guiding question. Then we see the learning outcome. And underneath those learning outcomes is knowledge, understanding, skills, and procedures, as well as students will have access to the literacy and numeracy competencies. And each learning outcome kind of focuses on different competencies, different areas of the literacy and numeracy progressions. So this is an example of the math kindergarten curriculum. This, what you see on the screen here, is just kindergarten to grade 2, but it definitely continues on. But like I said, it all looks the same. Every topic, every subject starts with an organizing idea. Then you have a guiding question, the learning outcome, and then underneath the learning outcome is those understandings, the knowledge that the students will have or attain at that grade level, as well as specific skills and procedures that your students will experience when they're working and having different learning experiences in the classroom. There are 2 versions that teachers have access to. On the prior screen, that was the printable version, as well as there is a digital version. And this one I actually, love because it's very interactive. And so a lot of these I can hover over and it will take me to a different area in the new Learn Alberta site for more information and more support. So you will see, again, the organizing idea. When we think about an organizing idea, when we do our planning, it's really beginning with the end in mind. It is a statement of the learning, and it really is those big rocks, those big essential ideas that we want all students to have. These often will span across multiple grade levels or at least more than one grade level. Then moving down, teachers have and will use with their students a guiding question, and these are derived from the organizing idea. These kind of frame the learning. And so these questions, I'm sure you will see up in your students' classroom, and it really is meant to spark curiosity and wonder, to really get students to think about, in this case here, how does quantity and understanding quantities contribute to numbers and a sense of number sense. And so these will be used as a guide, as a question throughout a particular topic between an organizing idea, and it will really help students to engage them in the process. The learning outcome is what students are expected to know, understand, to be able to do. It's kind of that action that after all of the learning experiences, after spending, days or even in some cases weeks on a particular topic, it really is what is the essence of the learning. These are what students will be assessed on. So that's what teachers will summatively assess on and what they will report out on. So like I had stated earlier, these learning outcomes are probably what you are going to see with, your child's report card, what will be assessed formally on a lot of assessment tools. Then we become to really, this is, I think, an area that teachers are really, really going to look into, and it is started to be known as the CUS. So if you hear that word CUS, it actually stands for knowledge, understanding, skills, and procedures. And this really is, kind of the learning essence, the essential, what we want students to know and understand about the learning outcome. So these are, the knowledge that is foundational to all learning, really. It includes facts, it builds upon understanding, and it builds upon the skills and procedures. It is what is learned. Okay, so it is the knowledge that is learned from doing and participating in a variety of activities. Then you have the understanding, and it's really about putting those pieces of knowledge together in a logical and meaningful order to really get to that conceptual piece. We want students not just to memorize, we want them to truly have conceptual understanding, that ability to not only take pieces of knowledge, but to be able to transfer them into real life or into subject areas or across. It's really about that understanding is about making those connections. So it really is the essence. It's what we want students to be able to apply and transfer to new situations. And then the other component that they have is the skills and procedures. And those are statements about what students can do, what they understand. It might reference a specific tool that we want students to be able to utilize. And it's about ways and methods to get to that outcome. So it's those procedures, those school skills that we want students to attain to reach that learning outcome. As well, in the digital portion, like I had mentioned, teachers not only will they see all of this, but then again, they have the ability in the digital portion of the curriculum to be able to toggle on to one of these areas. And it really addresses what competencies really focus on that particular learning outcome. What part of the learning of the literacy and numeracy progressions perhaps will a teacher really embed into their learning experiences, and what behaviors that they should see from their students. And then delving even kind of further into the curriculum and spending a little bit more time now just looking specifically at the math curriculum, is that currently in our current curriculum, we referred to the math topics as strands. So we had, there were 4 of them. They were number, again, number looked at place value. It looked at the operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. It looked at fractions and division, and number also referenced the basic facts. Then there was a strand called patterns and relationships that also entailed algebra. Shape and space had 2 main mathematical topics, and that was geometry and measurement. And then our 4th math strand that spanned across the grade levels was statistics and probability. They have changed them now to be consistent with other subject areas, and they're called organizing ideas now. So same math topics, but now called, instead of strands, organizing ideas. So in number, again, you're going to see in the earlier grades a focus on counting, moving to place value, operations, fractions, decimals, and basic facts. There is a new organizing idea now, instead of embedded into patterns and relations, but just looking at algebra. There's a organizing idea that references and focuses on geometry, organizing idea for measurement, for patterns, and then a new one, which is new to the curriculum, and that is time. So looking at telling time, but also elapsed time, using time as a cycle to determine seasons and calendar years. So like I said, the organizing ideas, those are, those essential big rocks. They will span across grade levels. Teachers, and again, you have access to see what grade levels each of those organizing ideas appear. And as you can see, most of those math topics span across all grade levels in elementary. Looking at specifically, and I just want to spend a little bit of time looking at each grade level specific. So in kindergarten, your child will work with quantities within 10. They will explore through play and a variety of activities, look at 2D and 3D shapes. They're going to explore measurement concretely, often through direct comparison, which one's longer, which one's shorter, is this heavier, is this lighter, which one's big and what's small. They're going to be taking a look at patterning and creating patterns and identifying what is a pattern and what is not a pattern. And they're going to take a look at time, just generally more globally, as just a sequence of events. So, what happens first, then what happens, what comes after that. So in a very broad general sense, they were looking at a sequencing of events. And then if your child is in grade 1, they will now start looking at quantities to 100. So, being able to represent that number, being able to compare that number, being able to estimate. They are going to apply properties and strategies to model addition and subtraction within 20. They are going to be asked to recall their addition facts to 10, as well as the related number facts in subtraction. This is new. They will be introduced to fractions using only a half. So, share half with your brother, share half of the blocks with your partner. They will also focus on spatial reasoning by, again, looking at 2D and 3D shapes. This time, they're going to be sorting them and identifying, the types of 2D and 3D shapes and naming them. And they will be introduced to lines of symmetry, which is new in this curriculum. They are also going to take a look at time. So they're going to focus on cycles. So not only seasons, but calendar, months. They will not only look at it in reference to time, but also patterning. And they are going to start focusing on data literacy, and that really is graphing. So they will build data graphs. They will, gather data. They will talk about their classmates. They will, look at a graph and know which one is more than, which one is less than. And then moving into grade 2, students now will take a look at quantities to 1,000. They too are going to look at strategies for addition and subtraction, but they will move with quantities to 100. They will recall and apply basic facts to 10 and related subtraction facts. They will work with fractions as well, looking at that part-whole relationship of fractions, looking at a fraction of a whole, a pizza, or fractions of a set. They too were going to focus on spatial reasoning by sorting 2D and 3D shapes, but now they're going to look at specific attributes, the number of faces, the number of sides. They're also going to be introduced, and this is new to the curriculum in grade 2, they're going to be introduced to translations. So those are those slides, rotations, flips, turns when you take a 2D object. They're going to look at measurement by using length. So not only using a standard unit, say a ruler, looking at centimeters, but also non-standard. And when I talk about non-standard, it might be, how long is my computer using paper clips as a non-standard unit to measure. They are going to, once again, look at patterning, not only looking at patterns in numbers, but also non-numerical. So in sounds, in looking at, a pattern in shapes. So not just looking at numbers, but in other areas as well. They're going to relate duration of events to time, so about how long, right? And again, they are going to look at graphing data, analyzing data, gathering information, using pictographs and bar graphs. And then looking at the grade 3 curriculum, your child will work with quantities and focusing on place value with numbers up to 100,000. They too will apply strategies for addition and subtraction. They will work in with numbers within 1,000. They will be introduced to multiplication and division within 100. They will recall and apply their multiplication facts up to 10 times 10 and the related division facts. So grade 3 is that grade level where they will be formally introduced to multiplication and division. They too will work with fractions of one whole. They're going to start naming them now, excuse me, by understanding numerators and denominators. This grade 3 is when they're formally introduced to algebra. So they're going to solve one-step equations using addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. They too will focus on spatial reasoning by now really looking at those geometric properties to the shapes. Excuse me. They will continue with transformations, so looking at rotations and flips. They will continue to focus on measurement using standard units. They will also be introduced to perimeter. And new to the curriculum is looking at angles. So being able to identify 90-degree angles in the environment, being able, something that is greater than 90 degrees and less than 90 degrees. And starting into grade 3, they are going to now kind of more formally learn to tell time. So those are kind of some of the big rocks in the K-3 curriculum. I do kind of want to point out that, and I'm sure you've already started hearing about that. I just wanted to bring attention that there is a real focus now on financial literacy. It's, in the prior curriculums, it wasn't formally required to learn about money, although it was always embedded. And I know I always used money when I was teaching students decimals and being able to, budget or figure out, if you had $10 and you wanted to go to 7-Eleven and buy yourself a Slurpee and a chocolate bar, how much change would you get? So although not formally required to learn about money, it was already embedded. But with the new curriculum, students begin to work with money concepts. So not only as a concept, but actually with the manipulative of money as well. And that begins in kindergarten and spans all the way up. You will find financial literacy, though, in the phys ed and wellness curriculum. So you won't see it in the math. It is in the phys ed and wellness curriculum. But depending on your schools, I'm sure you will see financial literacy in your child's math lessons. So what can you expect in your child's classroom? Well, I'm thinking, and hopefully you should not see much changes. The curriculum is the what to teach, so Alberta Education, is providing at grade levels what to teach, but it's not the how to teach. So, I look at the curriculum is the what, the how is really that pedagogy. It is what teachers, it looks at the best teaching practices. Teachers will continue to teach. They will continue to provide your children with the best learning experience. You shouldn't see a whole lot of changes. Your teacher is still going to focus on the math concepts, as I had shared in the earlier slides. Those will still be relevant. You are still going to see, your children use math manipulatives and math tools and resources. Kindergarten will still be a lot of, learning through play and lots of materials and concrete resources to teach the mathematical skills. You will still see your students or your children working independently and collaboratively. There will still be lots of math talks and math discussions and children working collaboratively to problem solve and to reason and to justify answers. So, there will not be, I don't think as a parent, you're going to see a lot of changes. Teachers will, like I said, continue to work on utilizing best teaching practices in the classroom. Ultimately, regardless of curriculum, the goal as a teacher is to really, foster and to teach and to, develop students to a deeper understanding of content and through the progressions and the competencies to really be able to transfer those skills to not only other subject areas, but to be able to take all of these skills as they move forward to productive adults. So what can you do to help your child at home? There's lots of things, and I always say, it's never sitting down with, a workbook and saying, okay, you're going to spend a half an hour on this workbook, but it really is developing those mathematical skills naturally in, everyday tasks that you do with your children. I remember with my boys, we live in a 2-story house and we would count the stairs up and count the stairs down. And we would, when we were, at the dinner table, we would do lots of just in the moment teaching. They never knew that we were learning math, Mom, but it was just embedded in all of the activities and interactions that I did with my children. One of the favorite things I loved to do was to always take them to the grocery store with me. And, they would help me create a list of what groceries we needed. And then when we got there and we were in the produce section, I would say, go pick 5 apples for us. And then we would put them on the scale and we would talk about, oh, I wonder how much they will weigh. Here's some bananas, Which ones do you think will weigh more? So again, my kids love to do that. We talked about, estimating, about how many. We talked about money. Again, when we would make the list, we would often sit down and I would take out all the flyers and say, okay, how much, is this can of alphagetti? And so can you show me? And I would just take out some of the coins and some of my dollars and they would have them represent, and then we would go to the store. Sometimes I would give them some money and say, okay, you have $5. Let's look at how much things would cost. Do you think you would have enough money? So, just really embedding it naturally in all of your activities. My kids, especially my youngest, Dylan, absolutely loved to work in the kitchen with me. In fact, I always thought he would grow up to be a chef, although he's 19 now. And somehow all of that, I want to be a chef, has kind of gone out, but he loved to always help me in the kitchen, whether it's following a recipe, counting out how many pieces of celery we would need or how many pieces of broccoli, or, we would make cookies together and we would measure and we would pour in. So again, when I think about that, students are being exposed to fractions. When they set the table, I would always say, okay, count out the number of forks, knives, and spoons we will need. How many will that be all together? So, giving them and building those independent skills, but you're also really building the mathematical skills for having them to be numerate individuals. I think one of the best things that you can do, and it's certainly, I miss those days as a mom, is cuddling up at the end of the day to read. And there are some phenomenal books, picture books out there now that really embed math learning. And in fact, often they, will have, this book focuses on numbers, or this book focuses on geometry. And so I really encourage you, again, when you're cuddling with your child at night, as you're reading, stop and go, do you see the math here? Ask them questions. One of my favorite books that I just received is The Boy Who Loved Math. And he, walked around just seeing where math is everywhere. So reading is really, really a valuable tool. Really helps students to make those connections to real life where they see math. Also, having those family game nights, games and cards is an excellent excellent way for you to embed mathematical and develop those math skills with your children. You know, I think of snakes and ladders, just think of the sequencing of numbers and going forward and going backwards. And I kind of highlighted some of my favorite, I know that my own boys loved to do as a family. And, you know, working when grandma and grandpa would come over, they would learn how to play. I think my parents loved to play crib with my boys. So, you know, what makes 15? They could easily rattle off. As well, I just kind of wanted to share with you, there is an awesome website, not only as I used as a teacher, but it would be a great opportunity for you. It's called Math Before Bed. And it was actually created for parents to have numeracy discussions with their children. So it is a great site. It takes into, you know, not only numbers, it takes into account measurement and geometry and recognizing. And there are just some little tasks and activities that you can naturally do with your students or your children, pardon me. But what's really important, you know, how do we foster, how do we build these mathematical skills with our children? It really is the questioning. So, you know, when you have that opportunity in the moment, take that time to say, what do you notice? What do you wonder? What do you think is going to happen? What are you going to do next? Do you see a pattern here, right? Is there another way that you could perhaps do that question? And so, you know, taking the time to talk to your children and communicate and have those discussions. I just put one up for you right now. This actually came from the site Math Before Bed. You know, it says count the stars. How did you count them? So, you know, you could show your child the stars and see how they count them. You know, some might count them one by one. Others might, you know, because they've been working in the classroom, and start counting them two by two. You could say, you know what, this is how I would count them. So just, you know, in those moments when you're interacting, make it natural, make it, you know, fun. Really, you know, it's embedding those skills and for allowing them, enabling them to be contributing members of our society. So that is my presentation. I hope you have some insight now and kind of an overview of the new curriculum, seeing some of the changes, knowing how you can support your child at home. So I do encourage you to take a look at the new Learn Alberta site. Like I said, there are some fantastic materials for you as a parent to have the opportunity to go through. You could, as well, can take a look at the new curriculum. You can look at your child's grade level to see what is coming up in September. And again, I want to thank you for your time and your attention today, and wishing you all the best along our journey of loving mathematics. Thank you, everyone.